Hi everyone, Scrappy Kathy here with a very tall pile. I think there are 24 layouts done during the Secret Not Secret Kit Club party, and to their specifications, to meeting the challenges that were specified in that group, including one that I set myself. And Calvinball points added where I could. Calvinball was not the primary focus here. And this one's going to be a little bit different. Number one, I'm going to intentionally rush through it. Number two, it's the first time I've reviewed I've done a layout share of any layouts that I haven't labeled and numbered. These are I've shown these before, these are my trusty labels that I put on the back of every layout. So I don't have these in order. I didn't do the challenges in order. There's nothing about this that needs to be sequential. And I may or may not remember what the challenge was or whose challenge it was as we go along. And I'm okay with that because these challenges are always amazing. And if you are interested in the kind of challenge that would have been issued in order for me to produce this amazing layout that you see, subscribe to the kids and join the club, and we'll see you at the next party. So that's kind of my plug for Christina's Secret Not Secret Club. It's a great party. Challenges every hour, and then you have a week to get them done, or 5 days. And I did that this time. Anyway, let me get started. I know that this challenge, let me get this adjusted high enough so that you can see the whole layout. There we go. This layout was, I believe, Laura Albert's, and she started out in her video with a lot of Vicki Boutin supplies, and I had been itching to use some Vicki Boutin since I got home from the retreat, and I'd kind of been going with older supplies. So I decided to go with some older Vicki Boutin, did a wonky grid, some older pictures of the kids, and let me move on. This one was a sketch that had some triangles. And for those of you who know me from other groups, I have a dreaded fear of triangles. Every time I see them on a sketch or someone else's layout, I think they look wonderful, and I try them, and I hate how they turn out. So there's a little triangle here, a big triangle there, and an upside down triangle here. And I kind of like the layout, but I'm not crazy about the triangles. Use some Vicki Boutin packaging here. Can't ever throw any of that away. This one, I believe, was to use some mixed media. And I'm not crazy about this layout. In Calvinball, by this time, we had a rule that said to use 2 different size photos on the page and to use one black and white and one color. And so that's kind of what you're seeing here. I'm not particularly in love with this, but it does. I like the photo of my husband and me at Galveston, and that's the pleasure pier in the background. There was a pleasure pier there when I was growing up, and it got destroyed by a hurricane. And the guy who owns Landry's Restaurants, Tillman Fertitta, has rebuilt pleasure pier. So it was awesome to see that. But I saw this on Facebook. It says, I want to go on a road trip. I want to sleep in crappy motels. I want to sing along to happy songs while driving. I want to watch the sunrise in a different city every morning. I want to take pictures of new places. I just want to go. And I have to tell you that my husband and I have done exactly that a few times. It's definitely all it's cracked up to be, and I hope we do it again many, many times before checking out. So there's that one. This one is a a rare one where I used a whole bunch of supplies from the same sticker sheet. And I think this one was to use, it was a stash bust to use the little word strips. And so I made this one about family game night. This had come up in our Facebook memories, and I loved it. I think I actually have food stains on my shirt in this picture, so that's a great one to scrap, right? This one was to paint a scene with your supplies, and I kind of know what I intended to do, but I saw this paper, and I love this photo of my husband next to a palm tree in his Hawaiian shirt, and I found an Eiffel Tower. There's a tag that had a baseball player on it. It just spoke to me of traveling around the world, and all of these are kind of travel scenes. This is a page out of a tablet. I forget. It's a Jane Davenport. It's almost mixed media that you can tear and cut to size, so I kind of like that. This one was to use a large hand-cut title. So I decided to make one of my letters into a shaker, and it actually shakes. Those sequins move around. It's not just an optical delusion. So I just did a Here Comes the Sun, which got me a point in Calvinball for having a song title. I used all of a sticker sheet or a sheet of these overlays. They're fancy pants from an old Beachy collection, and that's kind of, I think, where that came from. Not sure what the background paper is. I think that might actually be Webster's Pages. Anyway, I'm taking too much time. This one is one that I scrap lifted. That I scrap lifted, and the original was a lot better than this, but I thought this kind of suited the photo, which is of my grandson showing off some new cleats. He's getting ready to play the workouts have already started. He's in middle school. The workouts have started for high school football, so he's moving on there. This one, not quite sure what the challenge was here, but I used it to, I think, to get some rainbow points. There's an avocado there. I love the big gigantic doilies, so I put that one kind of halfway on and halfway off the page, and just crowded embellishments around the photo. There may have been a sketch involved with that one. This one is one of my several green ones I made kind of on the same day. This uses a lot of the Imagine That collection, and some Boys Rule and some miscellaneous and assorted things. This Rough and Tough piece was on the giveaway table at Heather Little's East Coast Scrapbook Retreat. I added beads to this one. I think this may be one of the few layouts where I added beads. I have a shaped photograph. I think that might have been part of the challenge. Anyway, I absolutely love this page, and I think my grandson loves it too, which is even better. Here's one that's a bit minimalist, which is different for me, as you know. It's an acrylic canvas that my granddaughter Allie painted when she and I took an acrylic painting class at Michael's a couple years ago. And we used to do that every Tuesday night. We had what we called Artsy Fartsy Tuesdays, and we'd go do something either in my craft room or we'd go take a class if there was one going on. And she and I have just agreed, on Instagram of course, that we need to revive that tradition. So she's coming back from California where she was on spring break, and I'm going to hold her to saying, and I've actually looked up some classes at Joanne's and Michael's that I'd like for her to go to. So this one is one called The Kids. It's a really cool photo. Let me turn this light on. I might actually look better. Everybody making faces, and they've got face paint on from a street fair that we've gone to, and Ava's doing her best fierce football player face. Anyway, I used junk from a million different places here. This one was, the challenge was to be inspired by a photo, and the photo was of a brick wall, kind of a street art sort of wall. That reminded me of this street art, and this is in Brenham, Texas, the home of the little creamery in Texas. Famous for that, but this little bed and breakfast was great. This is actually the very first scrapbook retreat I ever went to. My friend Jill, who is somewhere in here, I guess back there right in front of me, invited me to go. So I flew to Texas from Georgia and joined her in Houston, and we went to do that. And so since it was kind of an artsy sort of look, I decided to do some street art on the page, and I used some glimmer mist through a stencil and made a kind of, this is happening to me a lot lately, the photo cluster is falling down. So I'll put that one aside, indicating it needs glue. Okay, and at that retreat, I scrapped a photo that I had just taken of Ava by our hibiscus, by our pool in Jackson. And I decided, I forget what the challenge was, but there was something about the challenge that made me think I needed to scrap that photo again. It had come up in memories or something. So I scrapped it again, gave it a completely different treatment, and including a unicorn. And this acrylic arrow is also something that I got off the giveaway table at Heather's retreat. So I love wonderful finds like that. This one is a family picture. It's a go-to design where I do 7 inches up the page, some sort of border treatment, something across the top here. I did some glimmer mist for the sky, and I actually used a stencil with some modeling paste by Viva Decor, and miscellaneous and assorted other things that got me some Calvinball points. This is another, this one was MK Gunn did a challenge where we were challenged to use Project Life cards or any kind of pocket cards in a different way. So it's traditional to kind of use them for grid-like backgrounds, but I cut every embellishment that you see. I either fussy cut it or die cut it out of a 3x4 or 4x6 pocket card. This one was a pocket card. I used it as is. It's a shaker pocket card that I found at Tuesday Morning probably about a year ago and had no idea how I was going to use it. And of course it's perfect on a grid page. But you can see I probably used 12 different pocket cards in the making. 12 different pocket cards were destroyed in the making of this layout. Okay, another grid here. This one, the challenge was to make a mixed media background in a short amount of time. So I got out some the first selection of colors of distress oxides and just rubbed the inks onto the paper and kind of moved them around a little bit to make the basis of my grid. And the grids are great for Calvinball because you can embellish each one and you can pile on lots of embellishments without them being off by themselves somewhere. They're kind of anchored by the grid. So use that to surround this picture of Ava and Barrett in their beanbag chairs. Another green background. I'm not quite sure what the challenge was here, but what I love the most about this layout is this perspective frame that came from Bramble Fox Studios. I subscribe to their Fox box, and I'm stalking the mailman these days, waiting for my next one for this month to come. So just again, things piled on. It fit a secret not secret prompt, but piled on stuff for Calvinball. Here is another one where things are piled on, and again, I forget what the challenge was at Secret Not Secret, but it's kind of all about how we designed and thoroughly enjoyed the pool we had in Jackson. This one, it might have been to use trash. These circles here that form part of the background are the outsides of some stickers that were actually meant to be, I think, bookmarks or something. And so I've used that. There. This one was a in the challenge that I did some I had some black gesso left over, so I wiped the gesso through this stencil. I think it's called Bear Tracks. I think that's the name of that stencil from Stencil Girl, and it was just a black and white piece in an art journal. So I put it in a box, sprayed it with some Dilutions inks in this kind of rainbow collection of colors, and then I went over it with this cat stencil and some modeling paste, which, as you can see, is beginning to pull the color through. But I photographed it while it was still wet and before all the color had come through, and just used it as a background for my a colorful background for my not so colorful cat named Scout, who was a tuxedo, a very nice black and white tuxedo with the greenest eyes, the most gorgeous green eyes. So I named it Rainbow Scout. None of it makes sense except if you're trying to get points in Calvinball. Here's another one. I'm not sure what this is, what the challenge would have been here, but girls just want to have fun. At least I know I got credit for a song title there. This one had this was the storyteller challenge about to tell a story about your hometown. And this is a picture of my granddaughter Katie and me in front of the building where I went to first grade more years ago than I care to mention. And she was with me at my 50th high school reunion back in, this is going to give it all away, back in 2014. We flew her down from Kentucky to Houston. We picked her up there, had a little bit of fun in Houston before driving to Louisiana to this. And it just kind of talks about how much fun we had there. Well, at the reunion, a friend of mine brought and fellow classmate brought this photo of our first grade class. And that's me right here, kind of sitting there rather defiantly. Miss Toller, and she had been my dad's first grade teacher as well. Anyway, this is the challenge made, the page made for my challenge, the Getting Messy with Scrappy Kathy challenge that I do every month. And what the challenge was to use trash, use something that's a byproduct of your scrapping process as an element on a page. So what I did were, these were oversprays onto paper towels that were blotting when I sprayed Dilutions inks. That is probably a couple years worth of sprays on here. So I pasted it down and stenciled over it. And I stenciled over it with this kind of gold color, you see. And it looked awful. I really did not like it at all. So I put the stencil back on, used the black gesso to color it, and to leave a little bit of, it actually kind of leaves some of the gold showing, which adds to the dimension. And then I decided to, when I use these masks, with the gold you couldn't see it, but when I put the black on I figured you could. It looks like an older girl talking to a younger girl, and I had this beautiful picture of Katie and Ava, my granddaughters, and I added some special bond, fight like sisters, love like family, always there for each other. I thought it would make a good background for this page. I like the colors, not crazy about the title letters I used. There's maybe a little I'd probably do the title in black. I think I was going for the Calvinball point. Anyway, as always. Here's another one that's done by that, with the 7 inches of one color and a border and then 5 inches of another color. Only I turned it on its side and used a lot of pieces from an Echo Park collection. I forget the name of it, but I love the colors in it, and I used a different collection to back this heart cut file. This was I used a die cut to cut out a little palm tree, and then I fussy cut around the die cut to make this little kind of cut file looking palm tree. So I actually like this page a lot. And this is the first one I did for the, I think this was Christy Harriman's challenge, and she did a grid layout, and she did kind of distressed circles in the middle of squares, and had a kind of a collection of embellishments on each one. And I just absolutely loved and wanted to copy and do her layout. In fact, I wanted to be Christy at that moment. So this was the best I could do. I cut out circles of various scraps that I had, and used this picture of Ava in the tulips, and got my song title, Tiptoe Through the Tulips. So those are my 24 layouts. I didn't give you much detail. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the comments. I'll see you next time. There are still more Calvinball layouts to share, believe it or not.